Hello everybody and welcome to our first show of the day. This one purely on YouTube is going to be Raw preview, talking about wrestling in general, answering your questions as per usual, but it's going to be very much Raw centric before news for spoiler warning later on today, and of course our Raw watch party. You are joining me, Tom Colohue, as we jump into the weird and strange world of professional wrestling that's been going increasingly wild over the last few weeks. We got more news out with an interview with Becky Lynch from Ryan Satin today, and plenty of more information about things that have been proven right, things that have been proven wrong, and I definitely need to talk a little bit about, to phrase it as politely as possible, how much certain companies benefit from shit posting. I think you all know what I'm talking about when I say shit posting, but I do want to clarify even further as to why that's a positive for a lot of them. We've got a few people already jumping in and saying, "Hi Ed, it has been a while." Ed says, "Tom, feels like it's been a while since I've caught a stream." You are a busy man nowadays. You are a streamer in your own right. And I cannot blame you for being busy in that regard. Steve is here as well. Welcome, Steve, saying, "Hello, Tom. Hope you're doing well, buddy." So far, so good. I've had a pretty good week so far. It's one day in, but it's a pretty good one day, you know? I'll take that one day and call it a victory. And Rob is here as well saying, "Hi, Tom." Welcome, Rob. Good thing we're talking Monday Night Raw, because we're definitely going to be talking Finn Balor, who will not be appearing as of yet and doesn't look set to appear on Smackdown either. Finn Balor doesn't look like he's going to feature at all until we get to Survivor Series teams, outside, of course, of the King of the Ring tournament. So he'll be appearing on Smackdown, where he's made, so far, a decent impact. I expected a little bit more when it comes to the match with Cesaro, gotta be honest. Not more from the performers, but just more time. I wanted more time in that. It's confusing at the moment because both the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments are taking place on Raw and on Smackdown, and they're featuring wrestlers who are on the wrong brand. The Queen of the Ring, for example, the 4 women who wrestled on Smackdown for the Queen of the Ring, only one of them will still be on Smackdown at the end of the tournament. Literally only one. And we could have a winner in Shayna Baszler from the Raw bracket, who is then on Smackdown immediately after the win. It's a very, very confusing period of time. Very confusing. A quick update I do want to give, because I think he's popping up saying I'm having audio issues. The new streaming PC has arrived. I'm spending my time and taking my time working out its individual quirks and foibles as we progress, just so that I can know exactly what's going on with it. I want to learn the ins and outs of the PC, which has a much, much better processor, much better software, much, much more RAM, and should be able to handle this a lot better. We did have quite a few audio problems on Sunday. So if we're having audio problems, I do apologise. It will be fixed as soon as I'm able to get this new PC in place. Also, if you've just joined us, please do remember to click that like button. It does make a real big difference to the viewership and to the followership. Dominic says, "Hi, Tom. Who do you think will win the Queen's crown? I've been consistent as to the Queen of the Ring. I think it's Shayna Baszler's time. I really do. I think this is the relaunch that we've been waiting for. The relaunch that we've been waiting for, essentially, for Shayna Baszler, who's desperately needed it for a long time. She's been one of those who's just been sort of drifting, forgettably, even in her tag team. She was the loser for the tag team between her and Nia Jax again and again and again. Now's the relaunch. Now's the restart." Rob, what I'm meaning is that, I didn't explain myself very well there, I'll admit. Finn Balor will not be appearing on Raw. Because even though he's been drafted to Raw, he won't be on Raw. Instead, he'll purely be on Smackdown, competing for an honour, let's say, that he will then carry over to the other side. If Finn Balor wins, as I expect he will, and Shayna Baszler wins, as I expect she will, what end result do we get? Well, a Smackdown winner who's on Raw and a Raw winner who's on Smackdown. It's a strange, strange world that we live in. A very, very strange world. This is an Ask Me Anything stream. I implore you to ask whatever questions you would like. Jump on in and let me know what you're thinking. In the meantime, I'm going to start talking about our headline news. And that is something very, very exciting, I've got to say. Something very exciting. Tonight on Raw, likely to be the main event, we will have Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. When two horsewomen meet a horsewoman and a half, basically. Bianca's basically already there, let's be honest. Sasha Banks will team with Bianca Belair, a tag team we've seen many times that has imploded many times, against Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, a tag team we've seen many times that honestly hasn't imploded. It's been fairly consistent. It's been good. So we'll see if that pays off, because let's face it, how to best describe this? Everyone in this match hates each other. Literally, everyone in this match just hates each other. And honestly, I'm happy with that. This could be a tag team. It could also be a fatal four-way. It could be any combination with these four women. Now, there has been talk, speculation from fans rather than rumours that we're going to see Charlotte Flair added to the match and winner take all. We're not. That's just fans who are desperately afraid that Charlotte Flair might have championship reigns in the future. That's not going to happen, because whoever wins in Saudi Arabia will be handing over the championship. For those who aren't aware, by the by, I have uploaded a YouTube video today outside of this live video that we're doing right now, and it's talking about why I won't be watching Crown Jewel this year. It's a clip from Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure from the PW Torch VIP network between myself and Nick, basically just taking the piss out of the whole concept of Crown Jewel. AK Ray says, hey Tom, fact, Roman's entrance was longer than two women's matches combined on Smackdown. Indeed, and isn't that disgusting? Isn't that just absolutely disgusting? Now, we know Roman has a long entrance, but you could have given the women at least a little bit more, or had that entrance start before a commercial break. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. Thank you, Ed. Ed says, everyone remember to hit like and subscribe to help Tom in the main event battle against the YouTube algorithm. I'm trying to work with the YouTube algorithm instead of against the YouTube algorithm, but I'm doing something wrong because yesterday I lost 4 subscribers and I don't really know why, so I'm going to be having a look at that in future. But yeah, I do appreciate any support that you guys can give. Every like, every subscribe makes a big difference. And of course the watch time. Just by being here, you are helping me reach my goals, so thank you. Yeah, Rob, I didn't explain myself brilliantly. I'll openly admit to that. I'm not the most affluent of people. I just try my best. And welcome, mate, says, hey, Tom, whom do you think will win the King of the Ring tournament? Personally, I would love to see Balor or Jinder Mahal. I think Jinder Mahal versus Finn Balor is probably going to be near to the final, but I think, honestly, Jinder Mahal may come out losing in the first round. I would like to see Xavier Woods versus Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston and Mahal, of course, are previous WWE champions. Both were champions for around the same amount of time, so they can play history very nicely there. We can have Xavier Woods making sure that Kofi Kingston is able to win, even though, I want to say Veer? Is Veer the one who's still with Jinder Mahal? Is trying to cheat on Jinder's behalf? There's a lot at play here, and honestly, I would like to see Kofi versus Xavier Woods. Logically, for me, the finale should be Xavier Woods in there. I would have him against Finn Balor, no question. No question at all. It would be a very good thing, by the way, for Finn Balor, without the demon paint, to pick up the win in a tournament like this. This could be a big deal in his rehabilitation after the Demon King failed terribly. Just failed terribly on the main roster previously, and of course on its return. Thank you, Edith. Shankyu's on Jinder's brand. Right, okay. I can never tell. They're just names to me. I can't really attach them to individuals yet. For me, Finn Balor is a shoo-in to win this King of the Ring tournament, especially when you consider that when he faced Roman, he was not a Demon King. He was just a demon. An uncrowned king waiting to take that moment. His name literally means king. Finn means king. People forget that. Rob says, what do you think is the end game for Liv Morgan? I'm so confused. It's like a start, push, then stop, then they just forget about it. I think that's exactly what it is, Rob. There's been a lot of talk previously about what the plans are for Liv Morgan. The fact that Fightful reported she was originally penciled in to win the match, but then lost the match because Carmella was chosen instead. There are times before now where I've mentioned that Liv Morgan vignettes have been pulled at the last second. Somebody in the WWE doesn't like Liv Morgan. Clearly somebody in the WWE doesn't think she has what it takes to make it all the way. So they tease the push. She gets brief opportunities, and then the rug gets pulled out, the hand gets pulled back, and she ends up with absolutely nothing. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. It's just one of those where somebody doesn't want to give Liv Morgan the chance at the very top. Now, admittedly, a large part of this particular instance is to do with the draft. A lot of changes were made because of the draft as to who was going to get pushed. Liv Morgan, if the draft didn't come, would likely have been pushed against Becky at least for a month, but that did not pan out and that did not pay off this time around. Instead, after Extreme Rules and the win she got there, which was supposed to catapult her higher, what actually happened was that she got knocked back down again by Carmella. I think Fox and USA had a lot to do with this, and a lot to do with the fact that Liv Morgan's push is not forthcoming. That said, if you're a Liv Morgan fan, get on social media. I've said this again and again to a lot of people here and to people on Twitter. The WWE track social media. They care about social media. I remember tweeting #TheManEvent when the women's triple threat was looking like it was going to get moved for Seth versus Brock at WrestleMania 35. I remember tweeting that, just hoping to try and make something happen. Now, that's not down to me. That's down to the thousands upon thousands of other people who were doing the same. The fact that so many people were doing it made a big difference. Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, they only found out they were main eventing, 2 weeks beforehand? We don't know if that was the original plan. It could very easily have been Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley who was supposed to main event night one. The two big championships, as it were. Instead, it ended up being a double Smackdown header. I've got to think a lot of that comes down to the push from the fans. If you like Liv Morgan, never go quietly. That's a general rule of my life and a bit of a catchphrase recently. Tom Colohue, never go quietly. If you want to kick and scream, you kick and you scream. Because I tell you what, people will try and shut you down. They will try everything to keep you quiet. Kick and scream. AK says, the card is looking very good, but I'm not excited because it's Crown Jewel. I'm the same. I'm definitely skipping Crown Jewel. No question whatsoever in my mind. We've all talked about this on Twitch already. It's just a situation whereby I have no interest in even remotely supporting a show in Saudi Arabia, especially when they're literally just hiding it. They're just hiding the fact that it's happening. I find that disgusting. Hello, Tanner. Glad to see you, mate. Glad you're so excited as well. Welcome, Noob. Happy to see you as well. Good afternoon to you as well. Tip of the hat to you. I'm looking forward to Asuka being back soon, are you, Noob? Because, to be honest, I am. The stage is set quite nicely for her. Ed says, well, Rey from Rey Mysterio means king too, so who knows? Yes, but that's Spanish, whereas Finn Balor is Irish, and Rey Mysterio, as we know, already eliminated. Already eliminated. I always laugh when I meet someone whose surname is Reynolds. It means of the king. AK says, SmackDown has a heel champion in Charlotte. They should have built Liv and Storm as contenders rather than heels win in Queen's Crown. Possibly, but it depends on the end result. You've got to remember, this tournament was booked finish to start, rather than start to finish. They decided who would be in the final, then decided who they wanted them to beat in the semis, then decided who was going to be in the actual tournament to go from there. Sami Zayn versus Finn Balor is something they decided upon, then decided to include Cesaro the way that they did for a exhibition match to try and get people hyped, and include Rey Mysterio to continue the match, the feud, should it be, between Sami Zayn and Rey over Dominic. It's good storytelling, but they do book from finish to start, and we do have to consider that. So yes, while I think Shayna Baszler was always planned to be the winner, she only needed one heel to beat. She only needed one Zelina Vega or Carmella to beat in the final. And honestly, it's a bit disappointing the way that they've used Liv Morgan. Used is a good word. Anan says, Liv Morgan not getting a push. Is it due to possible heat on her? Recently she shared a post in support of Ruby Soho on her AEW debut. I don't believe it was her AEW debut. I've seen many wrestlers supporting many AEW wrestlers with no repercussions whatsoever. None whatsoever. The fact is, I saw a report recently, that I haven't seen anywhere else. I saw a report from a notorious troll account citing Dave Meltzer, but I haven't actually seen the report, stating that, Liv Morgan was called in and told not to fraternize with the enemy. It's not true. That didn't happen. That did not happen. I can categorically state that did not happen, because Liv Morgan is far from the only person communicating with wrestlers across the aisle in AEW. Vince McMahon does not care. He does not care. I don't know how many times myself and many others have to say the same thing. Vince doesn't care. Triple H watches AEW. Many people in NXT do. Vince doesn't care. Good evening, Christoph. Welcome to the show, mate. Glad to see you. Ed says, could they have Sammy beat Finn, knowing he won't go to Saudi, and have this further his conspiracy angle? They technically could if the end result was a push for Sami Zayn. I don't see a push for Sami Zayn in the near future. I just don't. They've never really cared much about Sami Zayn. I'm being completely honest here. Sami Zayn's never been viewed as a main eventer, or indeed a future main eventer, and his value to the company has largely been defined by what he does with Kevin Owens. That's a problem. That's a genuine problem that they need to either address by giving him a proper push, or let the guy go, because you're not going to use him right. If they have him beat Finn and then he's pulled from it, it makes whoever replaces him, especially if that is Finn Balor, look really quite weak. Yeah, you've got you're facing the runner-up. It's not quite the same. Now, I could still see something like that happening, but I think it's more likely that Sammy gets screwed during the actual match that will happen on SmackDown. Maybe we see the red light and the heartbeat. Just to tense him up a little bit, just to tense him up. And some sort of visitation, as it were. Tanner says, Tegan Nox, where is she? At the minute, kind of nowhere. Tegan is best described as in limbo, as is a lot of people, particularly those who were chosen on Raw Talk and on Talking Smack. There are no plans for those people. They just had to go somewhere. They literally just had to go somewhere. There is no plan at the moment for Tegan Nox. There is no plan for Shotzi Blackheart. They broke them up with no plan for the tag team and with no plan for the individuals. The creative team right now is trying to work out what to do with them going forwards. To be blunt, I'm a little bit worried. They were brought up to serve a purpose. They did serve that purpose, admittedly, of just being an extra tag team to fill out the roster and to give Natalya and Tamina someone new to argue with. Then the decision was made to take the championship away from Nikki Cross at SummerSlam ahead of what would have been scheduled. It was supposed to be a little bit longer, but fans were not behind her at all. I reported that well before SummerSlam that it was going to happen. And then, of course, we had Rhea Ripley and Nikki Cross, who became the de facto future champions. Kind of took away the moment from Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart a little bit, and now Tegan Nox is drifting a little bit in the ether. Steve says, is it me or is the Queen's Crown final going to be Baszler squashing Carmella or Zelina in less than 2 minutes? Could the way a second women's match was agreed to be put on the Crown Jewel show? It certainly could be. It definitely could be. That they've basically said, okay, you can have 10 minutes of women's wrestling. Okay, we'll get an 8-minute match and a 2-minute match. That's certainly a possibility. And I think if that's the case, that's pretty crafty. And I have to give them credit for that, annoyingly. I do think Baszler is going to absolutely demolish whoever ends up being her competitor in the final. That said, the biggest challenge for Baszler is not Dana Brooke, it's not Carmella, it's not Zelina Vega. It's Doudrop. Doudrop at the moment is still a big deal. Can still actually fight her way through, and I don't believe she's lost in singles competition yet. It would be a coup for Baszler to introduce Doudrop to the loser's circle. It would be a coup, and it would be a big victory for her. And for those unaware, I have also reported on this YouTube, and you can check it out, it's like a 2-minute video, that Shayna Baszler's push is forthcoming and is in fact now ongoing, because since I reported it, she's certainly getting a push. Anand says, do you think Keith Lee should have been included in the King of the Ring tournament with his new Bearcat gimmick, this would have made the tournament more interesting. It depends. Keith Lee's one of those who right now don't use him if he's not going to win. Just don't do it. I would like to see him have a few exhibition matches, maybe take on a couple of jobbers, maybe take on a couple of recent call-ups and low-down names who aren't expected to pick up wins, and maybe just pick up a couple of wins, give him 5-6 minutes per show, per Raw, and just see what he does with it. I think he'll do moderately well, and I think that helps him build up his stamina. That's the issue right now with Keith Lee. He's openly admitted it. Because of his time away, he has not got the stamina that he did when he was wrestling week in, week out. Because of that, and in many ways because as a response to that, he's now in a position whereby he needs to work back to fitness. The King of the Ring could have been a good moment for him if he was down to win it. I just think at the moment, the WWE can't guarantee that Keith Lee is going to be there and available for the big matches and the championship matches to come. Also, I feel it depends on what the plan is going forwards. If we're looking at Finn Balor versus Big E, for example, Finn Balor can play heel. Finn Balor can be the evil side coming up to it. The former fun-loving Finn, that's a lot of Fs, coming up against Big E. That works for me as a feud. Keith Lee versus Big E, I feel Keith Lee would suffer there, because while booing Finn Balor is difficult, booing Keith Lee when you line him up against someone like Big E is a little bit easier. Rob says, were these King and Queen of the Ring tournament competitors chosen last minute? I did not expect Finn to be in it or Kofi. They were not chosen last minute. They were informed last minute, I'll tell you that. If you're following on Twitter, I shared that news a little while ago. They were informed last minute, but they were not chosen last minute. As I did briefly mention earlier, the tournament was booked, finished to start. They decided who they wanted to win, and then decided who was available, who was not in major storylines, who they could basically slot in at different spots and say, okay, this person will help this person get over, this person will help this person get over, and so on and so forth. The Toni Storm loss was supposed to make Zelina Vega a big deal. Then she was supposed to beat Liv Morgan as well. So 2 wins for Zelina Vega as she continues to be rebuilt. It's sort of an apology for her, let's be honest. However, the decision was made to change it so that Carmella would pick up the win. Someone, and I don't think I'm going to say who, I don't even know who, so I can't say who. Someone got in Vince's ear as regards Carmella picking up a much needed win. Max, welcome mate, says, do you think Sasha is going to turn babyface? Not yet. Not yet. I think she's most likely to, but I think she will take on Charlotte at least briefly as heel versus heel before Shayna Baszler gets involved. At that point, Shayna Baszler will be booked as the face going up against Charlotte Flair and will likely be at least in a championship match, if not winning the championship. At that point, we would then pivot from Charlotte to Sasha Banks, meaning that we would then get either Shayna Baszler versus Sasha or Charlotte versus a face Sasha Banks. Sasha, for now, is very happy being heel. The WWE management are very happy her being heel, and creative are writing storylines around her as a heel, working with people lower down the card. Charlotte would take the top spot on the card, going up against the top competitors. She would likely take on a couple of people who are still considered to be developing en route, as it were. But then when we got to Shayna Baszler, that would be the big feud. Meanwhile, Sasha would develop the next challenger. So, for example, we could see Sasha Banks versus Dakota Kai, Sasha Banks versus Asuka, leading up to a loss for Sasha Banks, leading to one of those people going up against Charlotte or Shayna. So it's top tier and second tier, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, for now, though they will change at some point, likely middle of next year. Noob says Rhea Ripley and Nikki ASH are becoming more and more like an afterthought in SummerSlam and now winning the women's tag team titles. Yeah, it came out of nowhere as a team. It really did just come out of nowhere as a unit, and that's an issue. But at the same time, Nikki Cross was not supposed to lose the championship that quickly. Rhea Ripley was still supposed to be at least involved, but the WWE decided the fans aren't backing them. We're going to slow the pace here a little bit. For anyone who is just joining us, please do consider clicking that like button. Every like basically guarantees an increase in viewership, because what I've found is that we always seem to have at least slightly more viewers than likes. So if you haven't yet clicked that little thumbs up, it would make the world of difference to me. And subscribe if you haven't. We do daily wrestling news videos here. You will find news here that you can't get anywhere else. And of course, you will also find analysis and cutting edge information, ask me anything, Q&As and the like. In future, we'll also be doing Raw and Smackdown watch parties once again. So please do check us out there. Leave a like, click subscribe. Welcome to the show. I'm Tom Colohue. Kervin says, why have the WWE only given 2 minutes to the women's champion on SmackDown? The women's champion got a lot more than 2 minutes, Kervin. And the women's champion is Becky Lynch, and she was involved in the 10-minute opening that was between her, Sasha Banks, and Bianca Belair. So she was certainly a lot more involved. But the actual women's division matches, being the Queen of the Ring matches, they did not get time. Those matches weren't great. They just weren't. Anand says, recently there was a report stating that Jeff Hardy will bring one of his old gimmicks from TNA Impact to SmackDown. Do you have an update on this? Do you think Hardy will get pushed on SmackDown? Anand, what I'm going to ask you for here is a source for that report, because I've not seen that reported anywhere. What I've seen is Jeff Hardy hinting at it on an installment of SmackDown, and then websites deciding to speculate so that they can profit. Literally, the more they write about Jeff Hardy's other characters, the more they profit. So they are taking the fact that Jeff Hardy hinted at it and making it into money for themselves. I'm not aware that there is any report. When it comes to actual intention, Jeff Hardy was cutting a promo that was planned and that was scripted. I believe it is possible, even likely, that we see the Willow character again. That was part of contract negotiations. It was a sticking point for a long time. And if we've now reached that point, then we are likely to see a Jeff Hardy versus Roman Reigns feud. Because let's be completely honest, when you sign a new contract, you tend to get a championship match and then get forgotten about. See Cesaro. I could see that happening for Jeff Hardy. Maybe TLC time, maybe Elimination Chamber, Royal Rumble, something like that in the build-up to Drew McIntyre at either WrestleMania or SummerSlam. That makes sense to me. AK says, are you excited for a supersized SmackDown with an extra half hour of filler TV? We know there's going to be filler. It's going to be like halfway to Raw sort of filler. We know that. I'm not excited for that, and I think we all agree there. That said, they've basically promised a half hour, no commercial break match between Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty hyped for that. Now, they'll open with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. There will be a lot more commercial breaks in that first 2 hours, I'll tell you that. In order to balance out the half hour without, they will just throw more commercial breaks in. That's sort of the WWE way, or at least the Fox way. But if they're giving me Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch one-on-one for nearly a half hour, then yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I'm pretty hype. I am pretty damn hype. Kervin says, do you believe Sonya Deville's going to face Naomi on SmackDown? No, I do not. I do believe this is the next step for Sonya Deville's return. For anyone who wasn't aware, if you're looking for spoilers, this is a place to subscribe, because we spoke in June, I want to say June, about Sonya Deville preparing for an in-ring return. This was confirmed about a month later behind a paywall on Fightful. And then, of course, a couple of days before SmackDown, I want to say the Wednesday. So either the Wednesday or the Thursday, the day before or 2 days before SmackDown, I reported that Sonya Deville would be returning in-ring against Naomi on SmackDown. So if you were looking for news and spoilers and to be the most well-informed wrestling fan you can be, give me a subscribe, guys. Really appreciate that. Sonya Deville will be returning. It's just a matter of when now. There are moments in which she was planned to return. Her name was mentioned for Money in the Bank, as has been reported elsewhere. Her name has been mentioned for SummerSlam, but that didn't pan out either because of a lack of time on the schedule. Right now, the most exciting thing for me in WWE is Sonya Deville. Genuinely. I am I'm a big fan of Sonya Deville. And I'm hugely disappointed as to what happened. She didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. If you've watched her eat donuts with Mandy Rose, she's just a great person. She did not deserve what happened. Not at all. I am glad we're now at a phase whereby she's looking at coming back, whereby she has reached a level of confidence, ready to come back. I am excited for those. And honestly, when it comes to Sonya Deville, I think the divisions really could use her. Really badly could use her. Sonya Deville versus Shayna Baszler. Versus Asuka. Versus Sasha Banks. Versus Charlotte Flair. Of course, it's also an important point here that this is a push for Naomi. And don't we need faces on SmackDown with the women's division at the moment? I think we desperately need faces on the SmackDown women's division at the minute. Naomi could become one of the top names there very, very quickly. Anything involving Sonya Deville, even if it does play out like Austin and McMahon, catapults Naomi high and fast. We could have Naomi versus Charlotte for the championship. We could have Naomi versus Sasha Banks, which I'd imagine a lot of people here are very excited about. You guys aren't alone. Not at all. Rob says they are basically building the division around Charlotte and Sasha, with both of them helping out different parts of the card. That sounds smart to have two top women helping differently. That's the plan. There will at some point be a feud. Either they will do it early and develop some of the women in the division a little bit more ready for that spot, or they will do it late and Sasha will be working lower down the card pretty much immediately. The fact that she is likely to take the pin at Crown Jewel, it'll be a bit of a defining down, which is a good thing in this instance because it allows her to work with people lower down the card. We could get Shotzi Blackheart versus Sasha Banks. I believe Shotzi's on SmackDown at the minute. We could get Sasha Banks versus Aaliyah, for example. We're likely to also see Natalya involved in some way, even just as a establishment feud. So a Sasha Banks versus Natalya. It's been a while. I'm open-minded on it. I'm willing to give that one a shot. I think they could do good things. And of course, you also have to factor in Liv Morgan. No, you don't. She went to Raw. Who's the one who didn't go to Raw? Who's the one who didn't go to Raw? Toni Storm. You have to factor in Toni Storm. So you'd have Sasha Banks versus Toni Storm. You could have Toni Storm versus Sonya Deville. The talent is there. The question, of course, is whether WWE will use it. It says the Alter Hardy egos could be Itchyweed, Willow, or a full-on obsolete Brother Nero. If it's me, I'm marketing Willow. I feel Willow's the one because he's the safest. Of all the options, Willow is the safest. Doesn't work in the Roman Reigns world, but that's something they're going to have to work out. Christoph says, will Triple H be satisfied or frustrated long-term maintaining NXT, being the founder and having built his reputation over years only to see it all change? How do you think does he feel about NXT 2.0? The idea of Triple H being NXT's founder, not quite. Not quite. He was placed in charge. NXT was happening with or without him. And I feel that needs to be said. Yeah, he's a Big Daddy NXT, but that's because of the people there. And that is his prime... That's what he cares about most. The people. Making sure the wrestlers are taken care of. Making sure the wrestlers get opportunities. NXT 2.0 creates new opportunities for wrestlers. The fact that Hit Row, Ridge Holland, Xia Li have been moved on creates new opportunities for wrestlers. Also, the possibility that Johnny Gargano is going to be leaving the company creates opportunities for wrestlers. So we may miss him when he's gone, but at the same time, it does mean that more people get a shot. Look at what's happening with Bron Breakker. Look at what's been happening with LA Knight. He managed to get opportunities because of people like Velveteen Dream and Damian Priest going bye-bye. It's a big help. Tina's Cupcake, welcome, says, I'm excited for Sonya. Bright future ahead for her. I agree. Totally agree. Also, welcome, Tina's. AK Ray says, Sonya is great on the mic and in ring as well. She was a star last year. She genuinely was. She just so close to the very top. Sonya Deville was a future women's champion. And by future, I mean within a handful of months, we were looking at championship opportunities for Deville and for Rose. And then this knocked them both for 6. And they just... It's not their fault. They didn't do anything wrong, and that's what sucks the most. Ed says, can't wait for Daddy DeVille back in the ring. But my God, it was absolute stupidity from WWE The Bumps production team to ask her about the Edge Rollins segment. Absolute fucking brain dead thinking. Yeah. Yeah, it was. That was ridiculous. That was a horrible thing to do. Absolutely disgusting. It riles me up that you can't just think a little bit. Think about what the person next to you is going through. One, the production team. Two, the person reading that question out. No better. Just no better. Ed also says, oh God, Sasha versus Shotzi could be a dangerous match to watch. That's going to hurt. Yup. Neither woman cares at all about their own personal safety. Tell you that. Kervin says, I'm happy for AJ Lee to be on Women of Wrestling, but why have Women of Wrestling created a shirt for Tessa Blanchard said nuclear? Makes no sense. Ed has explained this later on, but I will add some elements to it. That's Tessa Blanchard's thing now. She has nuclear heat. They're taking advantage of the fact that there's a lot of negativity surrounding her for racism and piece of shittedness. The t-shirts will sell. They will. Hello, JDE. How are you doing? I'm very good, thank you. Having a very good show so far. Really quite enjoyed it. Welcome to the show. AK says, Sasha versus Shotzi, awkward landings, but it would be good. It'd be risky. It would definitely be risky, but I do think it's, if you ignore it, you're leaving money on the table sort of thing, you know? Yeah, as Ed says, I do want to read this out as well because it's a good answer. It's their way of trying to sell t-shirts and make money off her heat. It's a dumb decision, but it does make sense. Yeah, there is something I want to talk about when it comes to that as well, but I'll catch up on the chat first. JD says, honestly, I'm tired of Sasha losing at WrestleMania. I hope, pardon me, they give her a story there soon. Sasha Banks keeps asking to lose at WrestleMania. It's weird. I hope she can, pardon me, that's what I get for eating before I stream. I hope she's able to get rid of that bugbear and just pick up a few wins, even if it's a multi-woman match. Sasha Banks at this point should be treated like the top level. But at the minute, the top level is still Charlotte and Becky, who it very much seems will be taking on each other for Survivor Series. JD also says there's a lot of potentially fresh matchups though with women. There are. If they use everyone on the roster, the WWE has matchups for years to come. And they can get them all within a couple of months. That's the thing. Within the 1 year before the next shake-up, they can have marquee match after marquee match after marquee match. Their championship feuds can last no more than maybe 2 months. And then you'll get 6 of them a year. You can create new stars. You could have a 3-month feud with Baszler, for example, where she wins a championship. She then feuds with Sasha Banks for a month. She feuds with Liv Morgan for a month. Feuds with Toni Storm for a month. Then feuds with the next big challenger, as it were. Not sure who it would be. I basically listed everyone. Let's say Asuka. Feuds with Asuka for 3 months. After that, then the circle starts all over again, but this time maybe takes on a few more heels. Takes on a Shotzi. Takes on a newly brought up Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez. Back to Charlotte, and so on and so forth. You don't have to have 2 feuds per year. You can have more. Tina says, thank you. A feud between Sonya versus Sasha will bring Sonya to an upper level. I can't wait for this matchup. I just think the fact that Sonya is back will bring her back to the level she was at. She was a top competitor when she left. Genuine top level. She was there. She was championship all over her. I just wanted to get back to that as soon as possible. Rob says, random statement here, but there was a video circulating on Twitter after Roman and Finn's match at Extreme Rules. Roman and Finn nudged each other's arm, I guess, as a wrestler's shoot sign of respect. Yeah, that's basically what that is. There's a number of different ways that you can see wrestlers showing respect. Wiping their boots on the apron. That's one of the ways that it doesn't do anything per se. It's a very clean walkway, but they're showing respect to the person that they're competing against. And that's one of the wonderful things that they can do. JD says, I would have Sasha beat Charlotte at Mania and then Shayna takes the title of SummerSlam via cash-in or something. That's how I would do it, would be a fresh trend. I would go the other way around personally. I wouldn't have Sasha even approach Charlotte just yet. I would have I'd have Toni Storm versus Charlotte for TLC. Then at the Royal Rumble, I wouldn't have her defend. I would have Shayna Baszler win the Rumble, lining up to a WrestleMania between Shayna and Charlotte. I'd have Shayna win the championship at WrestleMania, and then start a feud with Sasha Banks at SummerSlam, at which point she would then lose it. I like brief first championship runs, you know? And I feel that's the way to do it. She was JD, absolutely. Welcome, Michael. How are you doing? A lot of people very happy to have Sonya Deville coming back. Tina says, I do agree. Her promo work brought her and Mandy to a different level. It was top level stuff, absolute top draw stuff. Kevin says, I really want Charlotte to change her character to be new and fresh. Unfortunately, I don't see it, at least not right now. Charlotte Flair is very well established. And because she's so well established, the WWE are going to opt out of any risk taking with character changes just at the moment. There is something I want to talk about next that I've been building up to for a little while. I'll reiterate it later on during spoiler warning as well when I've got a bit more of a script to work with. But just before I do, if you haven't yet, please do click subscribe. If you are joining this here channel, you will get daily wrestling news videos. Some news you can't find elsewhere. For example, updates on Sonya Deville's return schedule, updates on Bayley's return schedule, information about the push for Shayna Baszler. That's just in the last month that has come out here, with plenty more to come as well as some spoilers for Crown Jewel, Survivor Series and the like. We also spoke about Becky Lynch spending only a very brief amount of time on Smackdown before moving to Raw. We reported that just after she came back. And if you're a regular over on twitch.tv, which I will put a link to my Twitch in the channel, during an installment of spoiler warning the day before SummerSlam, I reported that Becky Lynch would be returning. That is a perfect example of a piece of news you cannot find anywhere else because nobody else reported that. If you want to stay informed, here's a place. So by all means, please do click subscribe. And if you haven't yet, click that thumbs up, that little like underneath the video, because that has an immediate impact on viewership, on views, and on potential subscribers as well. So I would very much appreciate it. Now, what I wanted to talk about, at least briefly, hasn't Twitter been kind of more of a dumpster fire than usual recently? I want to point out a couple of particular topics. And those particular topics are a tweet from... Don't worry. A tweet from No DQ, essentially saying, you know you should just forgive Tessa Blanchard, right? She's too good to ignore. And also an article from Daily DDT, who I used to work for, who basically published an article and promoted an article stating that Britt Baker is more popular than the Four Horsewomen. This for me is a perfect example of what we call shit posting. If we're going to talk for a moment about the value in those particular tweets, let's talk about the articles themselves and how much pressure they put on the wrestlers. Now, I'm not really too worried about pressure on Tessa Blanchard's shoulders. She's a diamond after all, and a nuclear one. That's her whole gimmick. Britt Baker, though, she doesn't need that. She doesn't need people coming in and saying, Britt Baker, she's more popular than the Four Horsewomen. She's not. She is categorically and provably not. You're literally posting garbage at that point. Now, Daily DDT does like to let its writers go. If they want to write their opinion, they're entitled to write their opinion. But come on. You're just putting Britt Baker into a very awkward position. You're pitting women against each other, and you're basically saying, well, you're just going to have to let it happen at this point. Britt Baker, the winner. AW, the better. Better than the Four Horsewomen. Look, you're entitled to your opinion. I would applaud the writing if it was that well written. As I say, I used to work for Daily DDT. I tried to give them credit, but when I quit, there was a reason for it. I walked away from them because they are one of those who have their own agenda that they want to publicize. And certain people are expendable. Essentially. You all know what's happened to me in the past and the crap that I've had to put up with. A lot of people you learn don't actually have your back, even if there is clear and consistent evidence that accusations are bullshit. When it comes to no DQ, they have a habit of this. In fact, I believe this particular writer has a pretty strong habit of this. There is a reason for this. Now, there is something when it comes to websites called domain authority. Domain authority is based on backlinks. Now, the point of backlinks is essentially a link to something. There will be a link right now in your address bar to this YouTube show. If you go out and you share that YouTube show, then this YouTube show, that link, will appear higher up in the rankings when someone searches for YouTube video, when someone searches for Tom Colohue. Now, if you search YouTube, you're not going to find this video because it'll be millions upon millions upon millions of ranks down. But the more backlinks, the less millions and millions and millions. When it comes to what No DQ have published, and in fact in many ways to what Daily DDT have published, it is beneficial to be quote-unquote ratioed. Because when you're ratioed, that means that they're creating backlinks. Every quote tweet is a new backlink to that article. And that bumps it up the search rankings in Google, in Bing, whatever search engine you use. It's probably Google, let's be honest. So they are guaranteeing themselves more views by guaranteeing that their website ranks higher on Google than the opposition all around them. That's what they are managing to do, and anyone sharing it is helping them. Literally, the best thing you can do is completely ignore them. I've been keeping track of Daily DDT for the last year or so. They have not grown. At all. At all. Kind of disappointing, to be honest. They have simply not grown. And a large part of this is posts like this. But you know what does make them grow? What does make them get views? What does make them money? When people create backlinks. Guys, if you want to create backlinks, do it to my content. I'm actually going to benefit from it. And I don't make direct money from YouTube just yet. I'd like to try to. I'd like to try and make a living. Every backlink makes a big difference. Let's catch up with the chat, shall we? AK says Raquel versus Charlotte would be a great, powerful match. It would be two absolute Amazonian powerhouses going at it. I could get behind that. Rob says, I'm so excited for Sonya. Seeing her carry a title just in my mind looks so awesome. She looks like a champion. She does. And with how she wears suits, they would make the championship and the suit match up really nicely. Just really nicely. JD says, I try not to post as much on Twitter in terms of wrestling. Way too toxic. It is. It is. Has there been a week recently where either someone in wrestling or a wrestling journalist, even more commonly, hasn't been exposed as an actual piece of shit? Genuinely. How often do we see someone exposed as wrong, someone exposed as an actual piece of shit, etc.? We're going to be talking on Spoiler Warning a bit later on about the Becky Lynch report. The report saying that she specifically asked to turn heel, which she's denied in an interview with Ryan Satin. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to have to. It's unavoidable. But the question I'm going to be asking later on during Spoiler Warning, is it still beneficial to them to keep reporting Dave Meltzer reports that are wrong? Because if they didn't, how much content and income would they lose? So even knowing that even if you're given a report from Dave Meltzer that is provably wrong, how many of those aggregation sites are still going to print it just to guarantee that the income keeps coming in? I have to ask the question. I have to. This is what I do here. I have to ask the question. Michael says, as regards Britt Baker, Britt has about 300k followers on social media. Sasha alone has 2 million. It's not close. It's not close. It's not close at all. Britt Baker's doing extremely well. But yeah, that is not fair on her. JD says, yeah, that was stupid. It was. Michael says it's just setting Britt up for criticism. It is. Basically, she's going to get beaten with that stick by militant WWE fans for months, maybe years, for something that she had nothing to do with. JD says all they did was set her up for harsher criticism. Problem with that is they try to justify their articles with facts. What facts? What facts? It is provably and demonstratively wrong that Britt Baker is more popular than the Four Horsewomen. The facts just weren't there. AK says these kind of things just turn people away from the person they like, in this case, Britt. Yeah, because here's the thing. The message gets muddied. Before you know it, people will be saying, oh, Britt Baker said she was more popular than the Four Horsewomen. She didn't. But people will have decided that that's what she said, and they will stick to it, and they will tell everyone they know that that's what happened. People change the story. They do. They take like one small fact, turn it into a massive different story that one small fact apparently proves when it has no context and no bearing whatsoever. People just want to be right. That's what I've learned in the past. People just want to be right. And even if they're wrong, they don't care as long as you tell them that they're right. You want to know how to make friends? Keep blowing smoke up their arse. It's all about what goes in their arse. That's how you make friends. Ed says, I still just ask Jeeves. Shout out to the older generation who knows what that was. Ask Jeeves. Predating Google right there. Wow. JD says, there's always a bunch of cliques trying to politic and conspire against other wrestlers too, all the time just for their agenda. Yep. Agenda journalism is a genuine thing. A genuine thing that almost all of them are guilty of. Once you know about it, you can spot it. I look at the Tyson Fury report from Give Me Sport quite recently, where it was, Tyson Fury is undefeated in the WWE and he packs one hell of a punch. He had one match. That is a desperate attempt to curry favour with Tyson Fury and his management team in order to get the interview. I don't know if it worked. I've no idea if it worked. Couldn't care less. I just know it's cynical and I don't like it. Rob says, like every women's wrestler is being compared to the Four Horsewomen. I guess it's a testament to them on how high up they are in the wrestling world, but it gets annoying at times. It really does. It's far too much. You're asking far too much of the wrestlers. They are still people. They're still human beings. Stop treating them like they're expendable. Stop treating them like they belong to you. Stop treating them like they're yours to pore over and examine. Look what's going on with Kevin Owens. They are not your property. Stop treating them as such. It says, Tom, you're lucky this isn't Twitch, or you would have a new clip right now. Well, I'm trying to get clips, to be fair. Trying to get clips. I thought that was funny. Why not? This is what we do here. I'm a bit more relaxed on Twitch. You get more dirty jokes and a bit more swearing. But I'm trying to be nice on YouTube. Get that YouTube money. Batman 901 says, what do you think of Bianca Belair's run this year? It's been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The way she's been used beginning to end has been incredible. Particularly, and I've got to say this, I like how she lost the championship. She was on a massive winning streak, basically like a year undefeated at that point. So losing it in that manner, the shock out of nowhere, it reflects well on her. I know not everyone's of that opinion, but it does reflect well on her, particularly with Becky Lynch returning and her not being prepared for certain moves and the like. You can always go like full cerebral assassin with that and say that the preparation wasn't quite there. It worked for Brock Lesnar and Goldberg after all. I do think Bianca Belair needed to lose a championship. She was booked to lose it against Sasha anyway. She would have lost the title at SummerSlam to whoever she was challenged by. It was going to be Sasha, ended up being Becky, but that is a good thing. As I say, I'm a big fan of early championship reigns being only a brief amount of time. It's a way of protecting a wrestler. If they have a championship for a year on their first time, fans tend to turn on them. Fans have not turned on Bianca Belair, and I think a large part of that is the chase. Rob says, I can see Bianca winning the Raw Women's title next year. I could see that as well. I think Bianca versus Becky Lynch is still in our future. I don't think she'll be winning it just yet, but I think we will circle back around for Bianca Belair. AK Ray says, Usos on New Day's a tag team. Who do you like more? I think I'm going to go New Day. But my main reason for that is I'm a massive Xavier Woods mark. Like, a massive Xavier Woods mark. You don't even know how much I love that man. Huge Xavier Woods mark. Just don't know what to do with myself. Done. That sort of level when it comes to that. Conrad says, hi Tom. Welcome Conrad. How are you doing? From Everything Pro Wrestling. Welcome everyone. Kervin says, yeah, but people compare Bianca Belair's loss to Kofi in seconds. Yep, and I think that's fair, but it's also unfair because Kofi Kingston didn't care after losing the Kofi Kingston didn't care after losing the championship. He just kept throwing pancakes. Bianca Belair has gone on a hunt. So slightly better in my eyes. Steve says, thoughts on the Inspiration going to Impact Wrestling, debuting at Bound for Glory? I think this is the best move for them and will fit in nicely in their tag division. When they were first released, I released a video on YouTube with my predictions for where everyone would land. Impact was my prediction for these two. It just makes the most sense to me. The Impact Women's division is very strong and only getting stronger when it comes to Steve and the involved... Steve? Sorry, I read down and I saw your name in there. When it comes to the Iconics, it's easy to get you and the Iconics confused. You know this. I expected them to go in that direction. It makes perfect sense to me that that is exactly what is going to happen. So that is basically what I expect. They will come in as very strong talkers. They will play the same characters that they did in the WWE, and they will be heels putting over contenders. At some point, I know nobody necessarily wants it yet, but at some point, Deonna Purrazzo has to lose that championship. If not just to build some competition. You need competition eventually. The Iconics, now the Inspiration, that puts them in a very good spot. And also, I've got to say, it's a coup for Impact. Impact are picking up some very good names. If they get Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman as well, Impact are going to put themselves on the map. Jay White versus Bray Wyatt. I would not be surprised if Braun Strowman has like a 4-year-long championship run, though. Let's be honest. It says, with so many great tag teams on SmackDown, is there a chance Vince takes the tag team wrestling seriously on that brand? Not really. It's Vince McMahon. Tag team wrestling is not something he really cares about. It just isn't. Hopefully, we get them used well, because there are some great tag teams, but I find it more likely the top 3 or 4 will be used well. The rest will be basically forgotten about. Ed says, agreed, Steve. Everyone kept saying AEW, but I never saw them going anywhere without tag titles. I never believed for a moment we were going AEW. It just doesn't make sense with the women's division that they have. I don't believe AEW will have actually been interested. I'm just going to be blunt. I don't think AEW will have been that interested in the Iconics. Rob says, ooh, Tommy getting more edgy with those jokes. I love it. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, you should see me on Twitch. I do some crazy stuff over there. The porn joke still lives long in people's memories. At some point, someone jumped into a stream and was just like, oh, you watch wrestling? It's fake. I went into a big long thing, which ended in porn. JD says, who are your top 5 candidates for the Royal Rumble for men and women? Oof. That's a big question, JD. Maybe a bit too big. Especially considering we are coming close to the end of our hour. So, tell you what I'll say. My top candidates for the Royal Wimbledon, the Royal Rumble for women, Bayley at number 1, Shayna Baszler at number 2, Ronda Rousey at number 3. For the men, Drew McIntyre seems too obvious a choice. I'm going to put him at number 3. At number 2, Keith Lee. Keith Lee versus Big E. Keith Lee versus Roman. There's history there. I'd like it. Number 1, based on what's going on in storyline right now, Finn Balor. I'd maybe have Seth Rollins take the championship away from Big E, and then Seth versus Finn at WrestleMania. Sounds pretty good to me. Steve says I've been mistaken in the past. Yeah, you see it, don't you? Next time I'm watching one of your YouTube videos, I'll just be like, looks so much like both members of the Inspiration. It's uncanny. Kervin says Deonna Purrazzo's had fun this year. She's basically just dominated everything, let's be honest. There will come a time when she has to lose the championship. There will definitely come a time. AK says Steve isn't going to mind. He'll laugh a lot with these two great and funny wrestlers. Absolutely. Max says, can Sasha win the Rumble and then win WrestleMania? I don't. Because she's a heel at the moment and Charlotte's a heel, I don't see it happening. I wouldn't be angry at it, but I definitely don't see it happening. WrestleMania, Charlotte versus Sasha, that's fun for me. Even more fun is Charlotte versus Shayna. Charlotte versus Sonya. Something new. I don't think Sasha Banks will ever win a Royal Rumble. No worries, JDE. You know me. It's an Ask Me Anything, and I will endeavour to answer any question that is posed to me. But I may filter it down a little bit. For example, I went there from 5 to 3 for expediency and to keep the stream moving. I'm sure you don't mind. Michael says, I really wish Ronda would never come back. Becky Lynch disagrees. I will have more news on Ronda Rousey at spoiler warning, by the way. If you've not yet clicked the button, twitch.tv/Tom Colohue. That is the Twitch link. That is where later on in about 3 hours we will be hosting spoiler warning. We'll be talking Ronda Rousey there. And AK said, I think Riddle or Priest could be a contender for the Rumble. I'd like Damian Priest to move up and move up quickly. I think once he loses the United States Championship, he's a shoo-in. I would like it if Bobby Lashley claimed that championship back and went on a similar run to his last one. But I think Damian Priest has been a very good champion so far. We'll see how it goes. And Kervin says, I pick Eva Marie to win the Women's Royal Rumble. Eva Marie. Which seems like the perfect time to end the show today. If you cannot get enough, if you would like more news, once again, that you cannot find elsewhere, you can check out twitch.tv/Tom Colohue for spoiler warning later on today. Do not fret if you don't have Twitch. All of that news will be making its way to here on YouTube over the next couple of days. We release daily videos, so please do check them out. And I've released a video about an hour ago that you can go and watch right now. Leave a like on it, leave a comment, please, and subscribe if you haven't, because that is talking about why I'm not going to be watching WWE Crown Jewel 2021. In the meantime, I can already see people flooding out. So, I've been Tom Colohue, you've been fantastic, and I will see you all later on for spoiler warning.